Enjoy yourself, it's later than you think. Enjoy yourself while you're still in the pink. The years go by as quickly as a wink. Enjoy yourself, it's later than you think. Come on now,
Solitary from the crowd, I step up on the block, shake my hands and feet, adjust my cap and goggle, and size up the long lane to where I make my cannonball turn. Repeat. I curl my toes over the edge, bend my knees, bring back my arms, listen. On your mark, get set, the starter gun fires. My legs spring forward and my arms thrust out, sailing straight over the chlorine blue. Swim like I was born to water. It never hurts, even when I lose. I forget those moments, gulping air and water. Remember soaring. What does it mean to be old? I'm having a birthday. Did you ever feel too young? Count your age in half years. I'm 3.5. I'm almost 12, practically a teenager, Mom. Adults think it's cute until you're supposed to be one. My first boss after college asked me, well, how old are you? I said 21. He said, nobody's that young. He was 40-something. Age is relative. We were working for the National Council on Aging. It's also very situational. In a place like that, you can't get much younger. That was my first real job where you get a paycheck you can live on theoretically. I learned a lot. Aging doesn't become a problem for men in terms of work until they're around 45 or 50 if they lose their job or have to start over. But for women, it was 35. That was the age that the airlines used to retire flight attendants until they got sued for age discrimination. In fact, in some of them, it's actually 32. 35, no, that is my preferred age. You could do anything at 35. Build rockets, have babies, run for president. If you haven't gotten there yet, you're going to love it. And if you're there already, don't rush. I was 35 for quite some time. And chronological age is overrated. Some people are old souls and other people never grow up. Baby boomer used to mean young and hip, and now it means old and expensive. Like we didn't pay our own way. I mind very much growing old in this society. Instead of respect, OPs, that's old people, get neglect. I mean, think of what happened during the COVID crisis and the number of nursing home deaths. Now, most of us escape that nursing home fate if we keep our wits about us, but it's a looming threat. It happened to my neighbor Don, despite our best efforts. But what really gets me is that most of the time older women just become invisible. Excuse me, I think I was here before him, that hunky dude. I live in the Castro. Are you honest about your age? I come from a long line of talented, intelligent, hard-working women, some well off, some not so much, who were not forthright, avoided, prevaricated, acted shady, would not give it up. When it comes to age, honesty does not run in my family. Now, my mother actually refused to tell me her real age. I tried to sneak a look at her driver's license, but either she caught me or I don't know what, I couldn't find it. But, you know, she was a lawyer, so also winning an argument with her was really not an option. I never did find out until she died at 69. Far too young. Now, my grandmother, nobody knew exactly how old she was either, even though she was my mom's mom and she lived with us, until I started doing research, family history research, and found that between the 1920 and 1930 census, Nani only aged, that's a 10-year period, right? She only aged 8 years. I guess that was probably because she was trying to get a job at Ford's factory and figured taking off a couple years might help her out. But my favorite was my great Aunt Jo. She was a vaudevillian, and she traveled the Orpheum circuit in a song and dance and comedy act called The Sugar Plum Girlie and The Marshmallow Boy. And they did very well, and then this handsome man was in the audience, saw her, they fell in love, they got married, and he ended up being the successful cattleman in Uruguay, and she became a grande dame speaking fluent French and Spanish. And I found their wedding certificate, which indicated that they were the same age, even though I know for a fact she was at least 4 years older. So I got the message. It pays to look younger, and when in doubt, a numerical adjustment can be made. I call it my pretend age. But more than that, I realized when I looked at the life of my Aunt Josie and my other grandmother, who was married and had 3 children and would have these periodic breakdowns and have to have electroshock therapy, I knew what I wanted to do. So I decided I was going to talk to my dad about it, and that was at a cocktail hour, which took place at my home on a regular basis, and during which he would give me his sage advice over a martini. Well, I can't tell you anything, because nobody can tell me anything at your age. I don't care what you do, as long as you like it, because if you don't like it, nobody can ever pay you enough. Yeah, well, Dad, that's the thing. I decided I'd like to go into show business like Aunt Josie. And, you know, I think that'd be really cool. Oh, no, you don't want to do that. That's no career. You got to make a living. Well, I figured I could major in theater, you know, at school. And he goes, no. It's not a good career, especially for a woman. I don't see why. He leaned forward and very seriously said to me, you'll have to lay your way to the top. Dad, I don't believe that all actresses have to do that. And he just nodded into his martini. I mean, you've been reading too many movie magazines. But, you know, over the years, those words kept coming back to haunt me and turned out to be truer and truer. I mean, he kind of anticipated the Me Too movement. He was like way ahead of his time. I just only wish he'd warned me that there were men like that in every business. So you might as well go for what you love. There's no playing it safe. I have another birthday coming up, and I don't know whether to celebrate. Enjoy yourself. It's later than you think. Enjoy yourself, even if we're on the brink. Or avoid. I usually dodge the question. Most of my friends know better than to ask, but you know, it always comes up. It's funny. I find it easier to come out as bisexual than to reveal my true age, and nobody likes a bisexual. Guess what September is? It's Bisexual Awareness Month. Right? Who knew? People just don't people can see us, they don't recognize us as bisexual. That's because it depends on who we're with. If we're with somebody of the same sex, they think that they assume we're lesbian or gay. If we're somebody with the opposite sex, we assume we're straight. If we're alone, they just assume we're unlucky. You know, we're not trying to hide, it's just that people make assumptions about bisexuals. You know, we kind of get a bad rap. And so, why aren't we so forthcoming? You know, things like thinking of us as oversexed, too timing, unreliable, disease spreading, can't make up our minds. Now, some straight guys might be intrigued. They're like, hey, I bet you could teach me some stuff from your experiences. And I'm like, I am not revealing secret lesbian, esoteric, erotic knowledge with you. I have to admit that never really happened. But this really did. Jane, my wife, and I met this lesbian couple, and we really hit it off. And we thought, oh, this is great. You know how hard it is to find couples when you're a couple to hang out with. So we thought this would be really cool. And everything was going really well until it came out in conversation that I was bisexual. And the one partner just stopped talking to me and just started talking to Jane. I just don't trust bisexuals. I would never date one. Hello, I'm right here. I mean, she was considerably younger than we were, and I thought, well, things have changed. And, you know, I think they are changing. Gen Z, I think, has really blown the doors off when it comes to resisting conventional gender and sexuality. Consider all the terms we have now, such as non-binary, fluid, genderqueer, two-spirit. And when it comes to sexuality, whom we desire, being bisexual sounds downright old-fashioned. I'm talking about polyamorous and pansexual. Except just because you're bi does not mean you're binary. It means you're trying to break out of those binds. And, you know, all of that can change over our lifetime as we age. But for your information, the B and BLGBTQ+ is bigger proportionally than all the other categories. That is, more people identify with that category on a survey than any other. Now, we haven't really updated these surveys to all these different options, but still, that's the way it's been reported. You know, and so I'm wondering, there could be people right here today that might have checked that survey category, but wouldn't necessarily be upfront about it in conversation or everyday life. So, you know, you could smile if you're bisexual. I mean, people are wearing masks, so no. But at least now you do know that bisexuals exist. I have to admit that I haven't felt widely accepted by the bisexual community, and I'm not sure if that's because there isn't one or it's very elusive. I mean, there are books, TV characters, Facebook page, and activities at the LGBT Center, but you know, there once was a bi center in the 70s, and I went to a meeting of bi women. And the coolest thing about it was that I looked around and I thought, you could not possibly guess what this group of women was meeting. You know, we had no identifying dress code, no like-do, no lingo or handkerchief signal system, and I kind of like that. In fact, I was very into bisexual visibility for a while, and I wrote a play about a bisexual woman who fell in love with a gay man who had AIDS. And I got a good review in the SF Chronicle, but in the bisexual magazine, Anything That Moves, I was panned. The reviewer said that my semi-autobiographical story wasn't true. And how could she know? It wasn't her story. I mean, isn't that the whole point? How different we each can be? I guess I was lucky because I always had friends that were mostly straight, but I mean that in a very loose sense of the word. I mean, this is the Bay Area. Who always accepted me and whoever I showed up with, as long as that person was good to me. That's what they cared about. But they used to tease me a bit about alternating relationships between first boy-girl, 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 in terms of who I was going out with. I mean, I have to admit, I was kind of a serial monogamy queen. Instead of one-night stands, I'd wake up a year and a half later. Where am I? Who are you? I could never date, you know, just right into relationship. But eventually it became more girl, and I guess that might be because girls just want to have fun, or maybe it's who do you want to grow old with? How would you rate your health? Excellent, very good, good, fair, poor. You know, I've been feeling great, but as I get older, I seem to bond with my peers by talking about what ails me. Oh, my head, my neck, my back, my knee. I mean, I thought about getting a knee replacement, but I didn't know what I wanted to replace it with. A nice lava lamp? Then I actually did replace my knee, and it's strange, you know, to have a new body part. It's metal, so I worry. I mean, what if someone tries to steal it? like they do catalytic converters on cars. I mean, there might be some precious metals in here. So I thought I would just wrap caution tape around it with a warning. Would not look good on you. I call her Loretta. She's talkative, just like the rest of me. She complains a lot, and it still hurts, but in different ways. What if she fell prey to a cyber mind meld and joined up with an artificial body parts army led by an AI master? We're leaving now, Lee, to join the others with superior artificial parts to form a new body politic. Of course, you'll have to come along for now. Wait, no! There are too many of us now. Little chips are slowing down. But I do this many, many, many times. My voice so sweet, you'd want to kiss me if you were inclined that way. So one morning I emerged from my house late and carrying all my papers and books, and I see the truck tableau. And all of a sudden, it's like a banshee grabs hold of my throat. Get the fuck out of the driveway! How many times do I have to tell you, you assholes? All the profanity I can muster as I drop my papers and books running at them. But before I can get there, I look around and I realize they vanished. The truck, the driver, the owner, and assorted workers, they're all gone. Who knew I could make grown men run that fast? Enjoy yourself, anything. Enjoy yourself, even if you don't sleep a wink. There is one thing that menopause and old age have in common: sleeplessness. This is when in the dark hours I wake up and I think about all the words that I couldn't remember during the day. Credenza, my second cousin's first name, what I had for lunch, or how to spell. I've never really been able to spell, and I've always been absent-minded, and this was very irritating to my mother. She'd say, Lee, what are you going to do when you get older? I don't know, Mom. Maybe I'll start remembering things. I'm waiting. What do you wish you could forget? We do a lot of celebrating in the LGBTQ community, I don't know if you've noticed, to offset the pain of being different, the stress we deny, the brave faces we wear as our makeup to cover our despair, when we're not invited home for the holidays or recall things we wish we could forget. So that's why I wrote this anthem. Nobody cries as loud or laughs as hard. Nobody knows how to celebrate like we do. Give us a reason and we bring out the pots and pans. We bang until those who don't understand complain. We hope to wake the dead because the shadows of many young men walk with us and they feel mighty real. My neighborhood knows how to throw a party in the darkest hour to provide care. We clean up our own messes, but we can set the town on fire when we're wronged. We bring out wedding dresses and give them away when we are allowed to marry. We love a parade, a march, a picnic, a dance, a speech over a wonky speaker on a truck, and we'll drink champagne out of a paper bag when our team wins, our candidate, our country, decides to give a damn about queers, Black citizens, immigrants, and those who are dying of plagues. There will be others. The Castro knows how to put up a stage and put up a fight, light a candle, and never stop flying our freak flag. We know how, and it hurts plenty. But once in a rainbow moon, I can open my front door and hear the roar of pure joy. As a little girl, I was scared of everything. So I loved scary movies. I closed my eyes, grabbed my dad's arm. On those Sunday afternoons at the Booth Theater in Detroit, I chewed my jujubes, they stuck in my teeth. It was just us. The first time I saw the creature from the Black Lagoon, I was thrilled. I wasn't afraid of him or her, I'm never quite sure, as they entered their home in the ink black water. Not like those melting figures and faces of horror in House of Wax, or all those mummy movies of unrequited love buried alive. But I did not fully appreciate the creature's true beauty until I was an adult at the Castro Theater in San Francisco. The water sequences were in 3D with tinted film. The sea coral and the anemones and the translucent fish came floating toward me. The creature was swimming alongside me with long, graceful side strokes and strong, elegant kicks. Holding a steady masked gaze, we're silently swimming together. Swimming is a solitary sport, but when I was a teenager on the swim team, you could work out with a partner, side by side in 2 lanes, swimming our laps in sync, stroke for stroke down the pool, turning our heads towards each other to breathe. Don't tell anyone, but I think my wife Jane is throwing me a surprise birthday party because it's one of those milestone birthdays. And also, we are celebrating that we are finally going to be living together full time for the first time in our 18-year relationship. I mean, how are your relationships changing with age? So for me, this means that I got a clean house. I mean, mentally, physically, spiritually, practically, to make room for Jane and her stuff. So, I got to start somewhere. So I thought I'd start by cleaning the refrigerator. This way. Let's begin with the shelves on the door. A repository for jars of unknown origin. Irredeemable chutneys. Cocktail onions. Too darkly briny to use. Upside down, almost empty ketchup bottles brimming with bloody red goo. Assorted mysterious mustards. Too spicy, too bland, wrong brand. Packages of takeout salad dressing. Bottles of almost empty salad dressing that I just can't seem to get rid of. An ancient stick of butter that's beginning to lose its yellow, surrounded by a collection of butter pads. Now, see, that wasn't so bad. Clean the shelves, admire their emptiness, imagine what might belong there. Then let your mind drift to past kitchens. I think of my mother's, perfumed with handsome smells of homemade bread and chocolate chip cookies. Nothing says lovin' like something from the oven, my mother would say as she poured herself another martini. I always said, dear, that you were a good writer. But do you have to write about that? Now, what does she mean by that? Sex, not being married, being a lesbian, being bisexual, the family, her real age. There's so many possibilities. Don't frown, dear, you'll get lines. She was right. It's time to get busy again. Tackle that vegetable bin, and I mean that literally. Get it out of its runners and carry it into the light if you dare. See what nature has forgotten. The shape of a pear dented in brown. Some things are best dispensed with quickly, limp and almost liquid like remorse. You should have broken up with him, her, whoever a long time ago, but there was so much else to do. And you'd forgotten your rubber gloves. Well, the worst may be over now. Spray the bin down with scalding water, removing bits of evidence here and there. Feel proud and sure this will never happen again. Now replace the bin and approach the shelves. Top to bottom works best because things tend to usually fall down and not up. Like how your email used to be full of messages from friends and family and now it's mostly spam. Your dearest ex-lover, the one you thought was family, she wrote you off for dating men again. And then one of your friends died and then another is just not the same person anymore. And this rest, your dysfunctional family of choice, you mean to call, you see on special occasions, and you mean to call but don't, because there's so much to do when you get older. Remembering, regretting, refinancing, re-wishing your dreams to come true. When I was young, I was fond of saying I don't want to hitch my star to anyone else's wagon. I want my own destiny. Read my Tilly Olson and watched my mother. I gave up my career to have you. You can't do everything. Why not? What is the shelf life of dreams? Okay, there goes that old bottle of Martinelli cider nobody drank last Christmas. Half-empty can of Diet Coke I forgot, and especially bad milk. And before you know it, you're on to the Tupperware science projects. Now here is where you tried to create life. And since that didn't work, you started dating somebody who was married. A most particular exception to your rule, as if love could excuse you. But who knew sex would improve with age? Our bodies ripe and full and well seasoned. We savored each other like a favorite forbidden food. We could never get enough. Steamy. The only trouble is, when you borrow someone, you usually have to give them back. I mean, do you think this is penicillin? It's like doing so well, I hate to throw it out. You're almost done now. Just a few fruit carcasses and overly aged wedges of cheese, the garbage can full. You think, well, here I've been living in paradise all this time, and there's been so much death. You see, David and Rob died of AIDS, and Bela and Kathy and June of cancer, and me with all my little deaths. One breast already sacrificed to science. There is never any forgetting you and you and you. The refrigerator stands vacant, wiped clean of tragedy and waiting. Well, now I can go grocery shopping as much as I ate it and begin again peopling my shelves. Maybe this time will be different. I will stop being the kind of person who is careless with food until it becomes a memento. Jane and I will eat everything when it's fresh and delicious. What would you like to take with you when you go? I know they say you can't take it with you, but what if you could? You know, I always thought that people should live together before they got married, but we did the opposite. We've been married for 5 years, but we haven't lived together full time in our marriage and in our lives until now because of our jobs. She's a park ranger at Point Pinole. I was a professor at San Francisco State. The commute was just too terrible. So we decided that she would stay in her house until she retired, that she'd let go of that and move in with me to my little house. The only problem is that I always had the fantasy in my mind that somehow we would sell all both places and we would get a place together. But that's not what happened. You know, that's impossible in the Bay Area. So I'm kind of freaking out because we had to clean out all the basement so we could make room for her living room, which is where she put that, and it's now kind of like a nice deck den. We also have a bar down there. It's really quite nice, but this means that all that stuff I had there had to go. So seeing all those boxes going out the door and into the recycling kind of gave me an existential crisis. I thought to myself, what has it all been for? My teaching, my writing, my research, my scholarship, my books, the shows I did with small professional companies and my students. This has been like an external memory drive for me, my archive, proof of a life lived. Look what I did. Now it's gone. Will I still be able to remember everything? Because I did save everything when it's gone. You know, look at this. Just imagine the overstuffed file drawers, the bulging plastic tubs with interviews and show posters and, remember cassettes and CDs and DVDs, all of that. They carry the voices and images of people who are no longer with us. And me, my past selves. You know what Joan Didion says? If you don't keep track of them, they can come back to haunt you. My life has now been replaced by her living room, and it looks so much nicer. So I've come to the conclusion that you have to make a decision about what you have accumulated over your lifetime and how it defines you. Are you a maximalist or a minimalist? Do you continue to accumulate or divest so someone else doesn't have to deal with your shit when you die? And then you have a lot more room to live. Now, I have to admit, I have sympathy for the accumulators. Because, you know, I might need this book, or I would want to keep this letter for posterity, and that newspaper article. But if I keep accumulating things, I think that I won't die. Because I'll have too much stuff. No one will want it. I'll just stay here and slowly sink down into it in a giant Amazon box. And then eventually put that label on top and somebody can return me. It's free shipping. Or you could choose the simplified life. Get rid of everything. Your house will look like an embassy suite for all the personal touches that are lacking. All is gone. Except I would keep one thing. I would keep for me that little ashtray that I made for my dad, you know, one of those ceramic things. It's like green, it's a little pond with a frog on it and little indentations for cigarettes. He used to keep that on his desk in his office where people could see it. Oh, wait a minute. Did somebody give that to me at a writers' conference in Cuba? Do you have any regrets? I have a few, some, many, depends on the day. But my solution is always the same. When I receive yet another rejection from a publisher or producer, I do not despair. I'm prepared to deliver my acceptance speech. I see myself stepping out of a black SUV limo in my silky, sleek dress by Target, arm in arm with Jane in her park dress uniform. Why not? She will be the center of conversation at all the parties, since everyone secretly wants a job where the trees are tall and the phones don't work. Studies have shown it is one of the least stressful jobs in employment, and rangers are happier and healthier than most anyone else, even if they don't get paid much. But still, it's my night, and I accept my award graciously, thanking you all for everything you've ever done for me, until the timer rings and the stove goes off and I smell something burning. When I occasionally miss that I did not have children, I just make them up. I imagine picking up my daughter Matilda from school, and we walk along hand in hand and we talk about my day. And she shows me her stellar report card. I taught her how to read when she was 3 and even helped her with her math, even though that is my worst subject. Then something buzzes or beeps on my phone, and I have to pick up the cat from her play date before things go bad with Matilda, and she starts accusing me of mistreating her. You love that cat more than me. You love her too, I say. Now, in the past, when I had regrets about my love life before I was happily married, I would select a doma to daydream about. Well, that's a desirable object of my affection. I don't know if that's really allowed anymore because it would be objectification, but still, just imagine somebody, could be anybody, a movie star, a neighbor, a stranger, that you can construct an imaginary life around. Maybe just someone you saw in passing. We'd make eye contact. I'd want to touch his, her, their overcoat. We'd go to the Buddha Bar in Chinatown, dine in fancy places, plan exotic vacations. But then we traveled so much it became exhausting. The cat was furious and forlorn. Matilda grew up, left home, and wrote a Mommy Dearest memoir. Such a good writer. I wonder where she got that from. So you see, my regrets have been put to good use. They spur my imagination, and, gotta go. Matthew Reeves, the new TV Perry Mason, and his lesbian law partner Della are coming to dinner. I have to set the mood. I bought some rye whiskey, I conjured up some fog, and I'm teaching Alexa how to play the horn that will break your heart. Sorry I can't invite you, but you're all too real, and I don't want to have any regrets in the morning. What do you remember most? I went to see my stepmother, Nell, after my dad died at the assisted living place, and she was marooned there in Florida, where she never wanted to be. She would have wanted to get back to Minnesota, but she couldn't afford it. So there she was, and I came to see her, and she just asked me to come over and have dinner with her friends. She didn't want to go out. So there we are, we're sitting around a nice little round table talking and introducing ourselves. And the first woman says, "Hi, I'm Trudy. Where are you from?" And I said, "San Francisco." And she said, "Oh, San Francisco, I love San Francisco. I used to love to travel. I'm Canadian, just Canadian." And then my stepmother, Nell, says, "Well, I was married to 2 doctors, but not at the same time. Your dad was more fun." And so we went around like that, and everybody said something, about themselves and where they were from and all like that. And then we had our salad, and then there was another pause. And Trudy turned to me and said, "So, where are you from?" San Francisco. And then we went around and everyone pretty much said the same thing. I started to think, I wonder what my memory loop will be. What will my entire complicated life story get reduced down to until I have it into one set speech that's a well-worn groove? Let's see, I lived most of my life in San Francisco. And I was a writer, and I also was a professor. I never had any children except my students. I married late in life and wisely to a woman. What would you like to do with the rest of your life? Ready to dive? Reaching out? Now it's not how far can I go, but what can I give away? I will never know how many times I get to soar before I have to step down. Be satisfied with the memory. I have another birthday coming up, but some people are missing from my guest list. The hardest thing about aging is losing people you love. I used to love to go to New York, and I always would stay at my friend Sue's place. She even had a tiny spare bedroom where I lived 1 year on my sabbatical. I met Sue at that first job at the National Council on Aging. She's about 10 years older, kind of like a big sis. She passed away during COVID, and I never got to say goodbye. The losses mount up. I've been meaning to call or email or text or send a card, and I find out it's too late. So don't wait. My dad was dancing when he died. He was showing the hostess a new dance step and keeled over of a massive heart attack and died instantly. He was doing something he loved, right where he wanted to be, Florida, with Nell, surrounded by friends. I just talked to him, and he told me he'd had a checkup and everything was fine. You were 77. It was hard on the ones you left behind. I never visited you in Florida. I didn't have the money, and you raised me to be so independent. I never asked. What a way to go, Dad. I should be so lucky. Don't be afraid to make it up, down to the last dance step.